Okay guys, here's what we did. We made an onboard hot water shower for when you're off-roading and four-wheel driving. It's hot, it's dusty, you want to take a nice hot shower a couple, 3 days into your trip, or maybe every day. This is a 69 Ford Bronco 302 that we hooked up, and I'll do my best to try to keep my fingers out of the way totally. This is a from Duba Diesel. It is a flat plate cooler. Heat exchanger can use as a cooler. We've got this hooked up to the Bronco. We bolted this from underneath. Went down to Home Depot and got some brass fittings for our 90 degrees for our heater hoses. This heater hose here, from the outsource, once the engine is hot, travels through the hose up here to the heater adjustment regulator, to the heater core of the Bronco, and then back out. Now this hose used to go directly back to the water pump. We put a splice in it. It now feeds in one direction of the heat exchanger, comes out the other side of the heat exchanger, back down into the hot water pump. To the water pump itself. That circulates the water through the heat exchanger, creating this to get hot. Then we take our water source. You can take from a 5-gallon bucket, you can take from a creek or a river. We're going to demonstrate that in a minute. That pump will get hooked in here to the quick disconnect, and then the quick disconnect will feed to the hose from the shower head. As the water travels in cold, it circulates throughout the heat exchanger, and then of course comes out hot. Okay, this is our water pump. It is a SureFlow water pump. Shut-off pressure is 55 pounds. You can see that, and the flow is 3 gallons a minute with a 10-amp fuse. All I did is really simple. May not be pretty, but it's going to work. We didn't have any room to mount this on the truck anywhere in the vehicle because, as you can tell, with the dual batteries, the 6AL, the air compressor, the power brakes, the fuel cooler, that is an inline fuel cooler that we are running a fuel injection, the EZ-EFI fuel injection system. There's the dual battery. So you can tell, guys, that there's really no room left. So all I did was mounted this basically to a flat piece of steel on a 2x6, and then just with a quick clamp to clamp that to the bumper or anywhere else that you might want to clamp that. Or you could even take this and just let this sit on the ground if you choose to. Okay, we're back. So let me show you some of the attachments. These are just everyday water garden hoses or water hoses for like an RV setup. And the pump came with these two spin fittings that we just simply cut the hose and made to the length that we needed to go from the pump up to the heat exchanger on the inlet side, the cold water inlet side. And you can make these any length that you want or whatever fits to your best application. Now, to make things a little bit easier and a little bit simpler, we also went down and got these quick disconnect fittings. And the quick disconnect fittings you saw earlier make it a whole lot easier to hook your water lines up and disconnect very quickly. Then the other line that we have is our hose that has the soaker ball. You can find these for about $6 down at Home Depot. They are outside in the garden center is where you'll find those. So you wouldn't necessarily need that in a water can if you wanted to pull from a water source, a bucket or a jerry can or something like that, but in a creek or a lake or something where you might want to have, of course, the water filtered a little bit more. That soaker ball would lay in your creek. And this is about a 25-foot hose, I believe. And then the other fitting that came with the pump. And then, of course, that will fit on your inlet side that we're going to hook up in a minute. Then on the exterior side is your shower head. We bought this also at Home Depot. I'm not real sure if this is going to be the right one or not. This pumps about 2.5 gallons per minute, making that, it's supposed to be a water saver, but we don't know. We're going to try it and see. This is the first time. We just hooked this up yesterday, so we're going to see how it does. Notice the quick disconnect on the other end of the hose. This is also a 25-foot hose. This could be any kind of hose that you want to fit with, but it's regular water hose for like RV applications. And then, of course, we had to get the fitting because the hose fitting to your shower head is a different size, so we had to get this little fitting to change that in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these 3 items, and we're going to hook this up to our pump, and then we're going to hook that up to our heat exchanger, and we're going to go outside and let the truck warm up. The truck has to get at operating temperature in order to get the hot water, of course, to flow through the heat exchanger to produce the hot water once we hook up the system. The nice thing about the old Broncos, I can't speak for some of the other four-wheel drives out there, but the old Bronco has a heater valve that you can adjust the temperature of the heat for the cab. Now, by opening that up fully, you've got full heat. Obviously, if you close this, then that minimizes the water that flows through your pipes, making less hot water coming through your heater core, less hot water coming through your unit. At the same time, you still have a full water supply coming through, making the water a little bit cooler, and doing so by regulating the water temperature on the inside of your cab. Now, inside the truck, I will show you those heater knobs. This is the temperature control knob for the heater, and what I think I'll do, this pushes in and out to regulate how much water comes through the heater core, through the hoses out there we just looked at. And what I'm going to do is when you find a good temperature setting for that, I think what I'll do is take a little Sharpie, a little marker, and mark a little notch on there to kind of give you an idea, a guideline, perhaps of where to put it, what might be, an ideal temperature. So we're going to go outside now, let the truck warm up, let it get up to operating temperature, which is about 175 to 180, and hook up the hose and try it out and see what it does. Okay, we're outside and we're letting the truck warm up and getting the operating temperature up so that we can get the hot water to flow through the heat exchanger, come out so we can get everything hooked up. I'll try to do my best. I got a little bit of a squeaky belt, but hopefully it's not too obnoxious when we start to hook stuff up. So let that warm up. We got our pump set up. We've got our soaker ball hose hooked up for our water source. And then, of course, we've got our water hose that goes from the pump to the heat exchanger. And then, of course, our hose from the shower. And hopefully we get hot water. Now, also, as you can tell by looking around, there's snow on the ground. And it's about 24, 25 degrees today. Today is Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. And what I did was I got 5 gallons of water we're going to use here out of the bucket, and I put a lot of snow in it. And of course it's already melted, but I did that so that we can get possibly as cold water as you can, and then we're going to spray it into the empty bucket and we'll just keep recycling the water. But I wanted to get as cold as we possibly could to see exactly how hot the water can get and what it does. Now I'll get everything hooked up. Okay, here we go. It's hooked up. I didn't time myself, but if I would have timed myself, I bet it would have taken me, I don't know, a whopping 2 minutes to hook all this stuff up, if that. So, you see our water source. We got our soaker ball sitting down there. not needed because the water's clean, but I didn't want to take it off. You see our hose going up to our pump. We've got our hose from the pump that's actually going to feed into the cold water side of the heat exchanger, and then your quick disconnect on the hot side as the water comes out hot, feeding down here to the shower head. And then we're going to just spray that into the bucket and see how hot that gets. Now, the truck is not quite up to operating temperature, but we're getting close. In fact, let's just see how close. Like my reflection in the mirror. All right, the temperature gauge shows about 180, but I can tell you that mechanical is off just about 10 degrees, so we'll give it about 5 more minutes or so and see what it does. Again, sorry for the squeaky belt, but you get the idea. The other thing is, when you're putting these together, always do this where the engine is not running. I know it's a silly comment, but make sure this is off so that you don't get your hands in the way of the fan. Hook your unit up. After your truck's warmed up, that's fine. Shut it off, hook your stuff up, and then turn it back on. We'll let it warm up for just a few more minutes, and we'll see how it works and if it works.